Okay, a few of you have been asking for a quick review of surface area, so I'm going to just quickly go through this at a good pace. First of all, surface area is looking at the total amount of area on the outside of an object. Imagine it's Christmas time and you need to find wrapping paper and you need to wrap the outside of an object. You want to know how much wrapping paper you need. That's kind of what we're trying to find with surface area. Now, just make sure I was right size. When we look at this shape right here, we could start to determine the surface area of this by first creating a net. If you were to unfold this object, you could unfold it into a shape that kind of looks like this. Right? And we could unfold it into this shape. And this will help us find the surface area because now we have a 2D object and surface area looks in 2D. So we took our 3D shape, made it into a 2D shape, and then we could find the surface area. Now the surface area is just finding each of the sides. So as we could see, there are 3 rectangles here. Those 2 rectangles are the same. These 2 rectangles are the same. And these 2 rectangles are the same. So to find the formula for this, we could say surface area is just equal to, well, if we look at the orange rectangles and looking at we could say the orange rectangle are this one, and there's one on the back side over here as well. So there are 2 of that, and if we look at the formula, it's length times height. So our orange is length times height, but there are 2 of them, so 2 times length times height. Then we could do the same thing for the green ones, where we could have a green here, where the green one is height times width, plus 2, but there's 2 of them, height times width. And lastly, the red is on the top here. If we look at it, there's length times width, which there are 2 red ones that are length times width. So plus 2 times length times width. Now, that's the formula. If you like to solve it inside the net, that's fine. I'll show you how to do that later. Okay, the next one is if we draw a net of this triangular prism. Remember there, it looks similar to the start where you have 3... Ooh, what happened there? 3 rectangles followed by 1 triangle on each side. Now realize that the height and base are 2 different, always have to be at a right angle of one another. Sometimes it's the side length. And here I say width 1 is equal to base because to determine the different triangles, we could solve that. Now, if we, again, first we find out, okay, there's 2 triangles, but what's the formula for 1 triangle here? If we have surface area equals, the formula of 1 triangle is base, oh my goodness, stop touching it, base times height divided by 2, but notice that there are 2 of these, so times this by 2. Some of you might realize that the 2's cancel out, but if not, that's fine. Then we realize there are 3 unique rectangles. The first rectangle is this one right here, which we could say is this red face right here, right? Which would be, in this case, width 2 times length. Then we have a, let's say, pink one, which is on this side, which is width 3 times length. And lastly, we have a green side, which is on the bottom here, which would be width 1 or the base. So I say they're the same length, it doesn't matter. So plus width 1 times length. And that's going to find our surface area of our triangular prism. This last one we did a whole exercise solving it, so I'm not going to go through that whole exercise again, but I'll draw the net out for us. And we can see there are two distinct shapes here. First, we have our orange circles, and then our red rectangle. So to solve this, we could say surface area is equal to, well, what's the formula for a circle? Yeah, it's pi r squared, but how many of those circles do we have? We have 1 over here and 2 right here. So it would be 2 times that, plus, oh, I said it was red, plus our rectangle. Now we know this is the height right there. We want to find out what this is right here. Now that's the length, but if we look over here, we don't see a length. But the length is just equal to the circumference of the circle. And remember, one formula for the circumference of a circle is 2 times pi times r times h for the height. So this is just the circumference, which equals 2 pi r. Vice versa, you could have also said it's equal to pi times diameter. It's the same thing, but I just like using r, so we only have one variable, times the height. So these formulas you could use to help you solve for surface area. Let's just go through a couple examples in case that wasn't clear. So I like to draw out my net first. So I'm going to draw, we want to find the surface area of these 3 shapes, and you could pause the video to do that. So this first one, we could use the formula above. We could use this formula here. Or we could just, if I drew the net and said, well, this is 10.4. This is 4.5. 4.5. And this is 12 there. What we could actually do is say, well, what would the area of this be? Area is just equal to length times width, which equals 10.4 times 4.5, which is equal to, calculator out, 10.4 times 4.5. Well, that's going to equal 46.8 centimeters squared, but there are 2 of them, right? This shape and this shape are the same dimensions, right here and here. So there's that. Then we could find, let's change color so it's more clear. So this is area equals length times width, which equals 12 times 10.4, which is equal to 124.8 centimeters squared. But this is the same as that, so we're going to have to times that by 2. And then lastly, we have the last, the blue, there's also blue up here. And the last one, let's say green, I like green. Area equals length times width, which equals 4.5 times 12. Which equals 54 centimeters squared. Now, but there's another one here. So to solve this, I could just say surface area is equal to 46.8 and times that by 2, because there's 2 of those shapes, right? The 2 black ones. Oh, I had that black. Plus the 2 blue ones, which is 124.8 times 2, plus the 2 green ones. This one was supposed to be green, plus 54 times 2, which is going to give us 46.8 times 2. So we have 93.6 plus 124.8 times 2, 249.6 plus 108. And then just add those all up to get our surface area of 451.2 centimeters squared. So that's one way we could just use the net. The second way, I'm going to actually just use the formula where we have surface area is equal to base times height divided by 2 times 2 plus length times width 1 plus length times width 2 plus length times width 3. Well, the base in this case, again, we are to find the base. Which one's the base? It's not always the bottom one, but we're looking for a right angle, and we see a right angle right here. So the base in this case is 6 times 3.35 for the height divided by 2 times 2 plus the length. So we could see all of them have a length of 8. So 8 times width 1, which let's say is the 6, plus 8 times width 2, and width 2 is, it says, look at these two marks here, are both 4.5. So I could do this a third time where I go 8 times 4.5, but I realized there are just 2 of these shapes, so I'm going to times this whole thing by 2 because the width 3 is the same as width 2. So then we have 6 times 3.35 divided by 2 times 2 is 20.1 plus 8 times 6 is 48 plus 8 times 4.5, and there's 2 of those, so I'm going to times that by 2 is 72. Add these all together, and we get 140.1 meters squared. Again, 2-dimensional, so we're doing squared. And the last one, again, we could just use the formula, so I'm going to push this down here, where we have surface area equals 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h is 2 times pi. I'm going to just keep it as pi. The radius, well, we have the diameter, so radius is half the diameter, which should be 18.5 divided by, it should be 9.25. Why didn't I do that in my head? Feel silly now. So that's 9.25 squared plus 2 times pi. We know pi is 3.14 times 9.25 times the height of 20. And we could solve for this. 2 times so that's going to equal 537 point, and there's a bunch of decimals, but I'm going to just round to 2 decimal places. You generally don't round to the end. I'm keeping that in my calculator so that I don't have to round, but I don't like to write them all out. So then the body is 1,161.8 centimeters squared. So just add these two together. Is 1,699.13 centimeters squared. And that's how we could do surface area. Hopefully these examples helped you. One thing you might run into is always make sure all the units that you're working with is in the same measurements. Sometimes they like to screw you up and say, well, this is actually 20 meters. Well, that's centimeters. Make sure you convert everything to the same units. Hopefully this helped as just a review video. Okay, bye.